So, very dangerous position I'm in right now, unless everybody continues to check. Nobody has anything, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to bluff here, kind of a semi-bluff since I've got a really weak low pair. Anybody re-raises me, I'm out of there, but as it turns out, I had more than they did, so just easily walked away with that pot. You'll be surprised that as many times as there's some action on the table, if you're the one that bets and leads that action, at least half the time you'll just take the pot right away. Especially if you're at a table with some solid or tight players, just placing a bet automatically puts you out ahead. And it doesn't take much of a bet oftentimes to just pull that pot down right then and there. So don't take the weak play and weak way out and just check it or call it like everybody else is. Throw a feeler bet out there and find out if there's somebody actually has a real hand and they're just trapping. And if they do, they come back over the top of you and you don't feel like you've got a strong enough hand, get out of there. But, I just don't recommend a lot of calls and a lot of checks. It's a weak play, and you're not going to win a lot in this game if you play that way. Now, I tend to take a little more risk than some, as you've probably seen, and sometimes it works out in my favor, sometimes it doesn't, but it's all based on my X factor and how much I have in order to risk at that particular point in time. And if you keep an eye on your X factor and you're smart with how much of your X that you spend or you're willing to put into the pot at any point in time, you'll be surprised at how much it'll help you, because instead of gambling with your whole stack, which is what a lot of people do, you gamble with a portion of it, and you pretty much, kind of draw the line right there and say, if I've got right now 5,000 in chips, I'm not willing to gamble with more than about 1,000, maybe 2,000 in a really rare circumstance where I've got a pretty good hand. But there's no reason for me to be gambling when I'm in a chip leadership position like right now. I just need to wait, be patient, don't risk too many chips, ride it out, let these guys knock each other out and get sick. Now you see Joe Black here is down to 930. These folks are going to sit there and pound away at each other throughout this middle game, and I'm in a really good position because of a number of bets and risks I took earlier in the game that panned out for me. So this is a great position to be in the middle game. Now what we're going to do is analyze some of the other players' play who are not in such a good, strong chip position. So you can see here, you've got one caller and just raised really 3 times, or a bet. So I've got 3 times the pot in there. I didn't make anything on the flop, but look at this. I'm going to act like I did. So I bet on the flop, or pre-flop rather. Now I'm betting again on the flop, an even bigger bet, indicating that I really like that flop. Even though I was bluffing, I had 2 overcards as sort of a semi-bluff, but it wasn't a very strong position, but they had no way of knowing that, and I just represented strength. And because my table image right now is the chip leader, and having knocked several people out, in fact, I think I've knocked three of them out so far, it's very strong. Now look at this. I've got ace-king. I'm not going to play it really strong. Well, 200's 4 times the blind. I guess that's reasonably strong. It's a big bet. And I've got a strong table image. Unless somebody's got a really strong hand, they're probably all just going to fold to me. So, that's fine. I would rather have that and just take the blinds down than have somebody suck out on me because I didn't bet it. Okay, I'm going to bet it a little bit differently. I don't like to bet the same hand the same way every time. I'll bet a little bit different amount, even if I've got the same kind of hand like ace-king, just because I don't want people getting a read on my hand strength based on my bets. So I'll vary that quite a bit. Okay, so let's see what's going to happen here. I'm in the big blind. Got a 2-7. So we got a community pot. Hey, I'm getting pretty good pot odds here now. I'm just going to go ahead and see what happens. I got nothing, so let's see what's going to happen here. All right. I'm just going to check. 4 players. Weakness, weakness. Look at this. I got a 2. I got the low pair on the board. All right, everybody's showing weak. I'm going to show strength and go, even though it's on a 2. Watch this. Let's see what these guys, you know, I guess with my table image combined with showing strength, I mean, that was pretty amazing, but I took that pot down easily. You just have to bet sometimes in order to win, especially if you've got a table image of being relatively solid and tight and aggressive when you do come in with a hand. And so far, they've never seen me bluff. They've never caught me in a bluff. That's the other thing you want to keep track of. When you do bluff, if they catch you, then a lot of times they'll start coming back at you later when you bluff. And so what I like to do when in bluffing is the following. If I'm bluffing and getting away with it, I'll keep bluffing and getting away with it as long as they let me. Okay? When they start giving me a lot more action and start coming back at me, it probably means they're on to me and I've been bluffing too much. They're starting to get on to me. Now they're giving me some action. So now what I'll do is I'll reduce my bluffing and I'll try to get them to come back at me when I've got a real hand. When you start getting too much action again, then that's a good thing because you can come at them when you've got the really good hands and you can take advantage of getting that action. And then at some point when they start respecting me a little more again, I'll go back to bluffing. So you just kind of sense whether you're getting action, whether your bluffs are being respected or whether they're being called, and you just adjust your play to your advantage. So you don't always do the same thing, or they'll get a good read on you, and then you won't be able to accomplish anything. The way you make money in this game of poker is, like in a lot of games, it's through misdirection. Misdirection causes the opponent to make a mistake. When they make a mistake and you're right there, you capitalize on it, and you capitalize on their mistake by getting them to make the wrong move at the wrong time. So when you're getting good action, you want to take advantage of it. And if I'm starting to get a lot of good action, sometimes what I'll do is I'll go into trapping mode, and if I'm pressing bets and I'm getting action, that's great. But if I'm not getting action, I'll go into a trapping mode and let them start pushing me, especially if there's somebody at the table that's getting aggressive. I'd love to let them push on me and just push me in deeper and deeper. And I'll just sit and call those bets as they sit there and push me deeper and deeper. And as my hand improves, or if I know I've got a top hand, I love trapping people. Now, it's not something that works every time, and you got to be careful with it, or you can end up trapping yourself in cases where their hands actually improve, and you wish that you weren't in there. So now this is an interesting one here. I've kind of gotten myself into this. Got 2 pair, except that I actually ended up sucking out here with a flush. I've actually been fairly lucky in this game, and in fact, almost extraordinarily lucky at certain points in time. But the more hands you play, the more of that stuff you'll pull. So I'm in a good position right now as chip leader because I can take extra risks. It doesn't matter if I lose. I could lose 1,000 chips right now and it wouldn't make that big of a difference. And everybody knows that. So unless they've got a really strong, solid hand and they're ready to go all in and double up, they're probably not going to come back at me too heavily. So we're down to what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players. So we're definitely in the middle of that middle game where everybody's going to start struggling now at some stage against the blinds. The blinds are coming up 5,100. So now if we think about that 5,100, we've got an X factor of, let's see, 10x would be 1,500. So we've got a couple of 3 players really right in that area. In fact, the fellow on the left is down below 10x. So we can look for him to, if he's a good player, to start going all in here at some point. He's getting pretty close to that marginal area there, his X factor, where he needs to actually start going all in order to double up. And now he's not quite at that point. He's probably going to hold off a little bit longer, but if he gets some good hands, he probably will start jumping in there a little bit heavier. So you can see I'm not getting that many strong starting hands. 6-8 suited, certainly not one of my favorite hands. So I'm going to just, again, kind of hang out. No reason to engage at this stage. And, you know, if I was one of these other fellows with 1,700, 1,300, 1,100, 2,000 chips, I probably still would be playing pretty much the same way. I wouldn't be engaging a lot right now in this middle game. I'd be playing fairly tight. I would be engaging when I have a good hand or when I feel like I'm in a position to make a bet and steal the blinds. The blinds are not up enough yet to where they're serious enough to where they're worth stealing, but they're getting there. We're at 225, the 150 plus 75. So